The battlefield was quiet now. Smoke drifted in the air, heavy and dark. Broken metal, shattered weapons, and the smell of burned earth covered the ground. The war had moved on, but the scars of it remained. In the middle of that ruin lay something small. It was a cub. Its fur was dirty and torn. Its chest rose and fell in weak gasps, each breath a struggle. The cub's eyes were half closed, its body shivering even though the air was hot. Around the cub, alien soldiers stood in silence. They were tall and armored, their faces hard. They had fought with pride, but now they looked down with no emotion. One soldier spoke, his voice flat. "The cub is lost. It cannot live." Another nodded. "No cub has survived wounds like these. Leaving it is mercy." The commander, taller than the rest, gave a small wave of his hand. "We move. The cub is already dead." The group turned to leave. Their boots crushed broken stones and twisted steel. None of them looked back. To them, this was not cruelty. It was tradition. Their people had always believed that once life slipped so far, no hand could pull it back. But one figure did not move. He was human. His armor was different, lighter, marked with red and white crosses. His helmet hung at his side, showing a face lined with dirt and sweat. His name was Daniel, though most of the soldiers called him only the medic. Daniel stared at the cub. His heart clenched. It was so small, smaller than he expected. Its fur was soft under the blood, its claws no bigger than his fingernails. He could hear the shallow rattle in its lungs. He knelt beside it, ignoring the dust that stung his eyes. "Hey! Stay with me, little one," he whispered, though he knew it could not understand. Behind him, the alien commander stopped. "Human," he said sharply, "leave it. We have no time for this." Daniel looked up, his eyes steady. "You're wrong. It's still alive." The commander's tone grew harsh. "Alive? It cannot even breathe without struggle. Its pulse fades even now. You waste your hands." Daniel set his jaw. "Not on my watch." The alien soldiers exchanged uneasy looks. Some sneered, others shook their heads. They thought the human's words were madness. Daniel pulled his medical pack from his back. His fingers moved quickly, pulling out gauze, a small oxygen mask, and a scanner. His training screamed at him. Every second mattered. The cub gave a weak cry, so faint it was almost a breath. Daniel's chest tightened. He pressed the scanner to its side. The screen showed numbers that dropped lower each moment. He muttered under his breath, "Hang in there, hang in there." The commander's voice rose again. "You fight death itself. Human, you will lose." Daniel ignored him. He slipped the mask over the cub's face. Oxygen hissed softly as he turned the dial. The cub's chest rose a little higher. Still shallow, still weak, but there was movement. The alien soldiers whispered among themselves. "Why does he try? It is useless. Humans are strange." Daniel pressed cloth against a deep wound on the cub's side. Blood soaked through fast, but he kept pressure on it. His hands shook, not from fear, but from urgency. He had seen humans die on battlefields, had held friends in his arms as their breaths faded. He would not let that happen again, not if he could fight it. The commander stepped closer, his shadow falling across Daniel. "Enough. We leave. Do not waste more time." Daniel looked up, his eyes burning. "If you give up now, then this cub is already dead. But I won't give up. Not today." For a moment, silence hung heavy. The alien commander stared into the human's face. There was no fear there, only fire. Finally, the commander turned away with a scoff. "Do as you wish. But when it dies, you will carry that weight." Daniel bent over the cub again. His hands moved fast, wrapping bandages, sealing wounds, checking its heartbeat. It was faint, too faint, Every beat sounded like the tick of a clock running out. The alien soldiers began to walk away, leaving only their commander watching from a distance. Daniel leaned close to the cub's ear. "You're not alone. Not while I'm here." The cub gave a faint shudder, its paw twitching against his glove. Daniel's heart leapt at the small movement. It was not much, but it was enough. Enough to fight for. He took a deep breath, steadying his shaking hands. The battlefield around him was silent, the air heavy with smoke and death. But inside, in that small body, there was still a spark. And Daniel had sworn long ago he would never let a spark die without a fight. The night grew colder over the ruined land. Wind whispered through broken metal beams and cracked stone walls, carrying with a faint smell of smoke and blood. The stars above were pale, hidden behind drifting clouds of ash. Daniel sat in the dirt, his knees bent, the alien cub resting on his lap. His armor was smeared with blood, some his own, most from the cub. His hands worked with steady speed, wrapping the wounds tighter, checking the monitor that blinked on his wrist. Every few seconds a small screen beeped, marking a heartbeat that could vanish at any moment. Behind him, the alien commander stood still, arms crossed, face hard. The commander's soldiers had gone ahead, following orders, but the commander remained. He did not understand his human stubbornness, but something in him wanted to watch. "You refuse to hear reason," the commander said at last. His voice was low, almost like growl. "This is not courage, human. This is foolishness." Daniel did not answer right away. He pressed another seal over the cub's side wound, then adjusted the oxygen tube that hissed softly with every breath. Only then did he lift his head. "It's not foolishness," Daniel said. "It's hope." The commander frowned. "Hope is a lie we tell ourselves to soften death. I have buried too many warriors to believe otherwise. You are blind if you think this child can return." Daniel shook his head. "You see only what has always been. I see what could be." The commander stepped closer, his boots grinding against shattered stone. "You waste your strength on what cannot be saved. What will you do when it dies in your hands? Will you mourn as if it were your own?" Daniel's eyes burned, but his voice stayed steady. "If I don't try, then I've already killed it. I won't live with that." For a moment, silence stretched between them. The commander's breathing was deep, his eyes sharp and unreadable. He could not decide if the human was brave or insane. The cub gave a weak, trembling sound, a small whimper, barely more than air. Daniel felt the vibration against his palm. He leaned close. "I hear you," he whispered. "Don't give up." The commander tilted his head. "It speaks only of pain. Can you not see? It asks to be released." Daniel shook his head again, more firmly. "No, that sound, that's life. And as long as I hear life, I'll keep fighting for it." The commander growled softly, but did not stop him. Something in the human's tone held him back. Daniel pulled a new tool from his pack, a small injector filled with nanites, tiny machines designed to repair tissue from the inside. It was advanced human tech, something the aliens had never seen. He pressed it gently against the cub's neck and released it. The cub's chest rose slightly higher. Its pulse, though still faint, became steadier. Daniel's own breath caught in relief. "That's it," he murmured. "You're stronger than they think." The commander's eyes narrowed. "What trick is this?" "No trick," Daniel said. "This is science. This is what humans do. We find ways to fight death longer than anyone thinks possible." The commander folded his arms again. "Your kind does not accept limits. That may be strength, or it may be your downfall." Daniel gave a faint smile. "Maybe both, but I'll take it." Hours passed. The stars wheeled overhead. The cub slept fitfully, sometimes jerking in pain, sometimes falling still. Each time it grew still too long, Daniel's heart seized. He would press his fingers to its neck, searching for the beat. Each time he found it, faint but present, he whispered words of comfort the cub could not understand. "Stay with me. You're not done yet. I've got you." The commander stayed silent most of that time, watching. His people's belief screamed inside him, Life had limits, and the wise did not fight them. But the sight before him unsettled that belief. The human fought as though life was fire, and even the smallest ember was worth guarding with both hands. Finally, the commander spoke again. "Why? Tell me truth, human. This cub is not your blood. It is not your kind. Why risk your strength, your time, your very spirit, for one who means nothing to you?" Daniel paused. He sat back for a moment, rubbing his tired eyes. Then he looked at the commander. "You're wrong," Daniel said quietly. "It means everything, because it's alive. That's enough." The commander did not reply. The word struck him, heavy as stone. His people had fought countless wars, buried countless young, and always told themselves it was a way of life. But this human, kneeling in blood and dirt, refused that way. The cub stirred again, its tiny paw curling weakly around Daniel's finger. He froze, feeling the fragile strength in that small grip. His throat tightened. "You see," he whispered, voice thick, "it's still fighting. I won't stop if it doesn't stop." The commander looked down at that sight, the giant human hand wrapped by a tiny alien paw. Something stirred in him, something he could not name. "You are strange creatures," he muttered. Daniel chuckled softly, though his eyes were wet. "Yeah, I've heard that before." As the night dragged on, danger still lurked around them. Distant sounds of battle echoed, explosions far away, gunfire on the wind. The war was not over. At any moment, enemies could sweep back across this land. The commander shifted uneasily. "We must move soon. If we stay, we risk being found." Daniel tightened his hold on the cub. "Then help me carry it. I'm not leaving it here." The commander's jaw clenched. "If we take it, the others will call it weakness. They will say we carry dead weight." Daniel's voice sharpened. "Then let them. I'll carry it myself if I have to." The commander stared at him, long and hard. Then at last he gave a small nod. "Very well. But if it dies, I will not shield you from their anger." Daniel nodded back. "Fair enough." He lifted the cub gently, wrapping it in a cloth from his pack to keep it warm. The small body pressed weakly against his chest, its breathing soft but steady. He rose to his feet, legs heavy but determined. The commander stepped beside him. For the first time, there was no scorn in his eyes, only something like respect. "You carry more than a cub," the commander said quietly. "You carry a challenge to everything we believe." Daniel looked at him, his expression firm. "Then maybe it's time your beliefs were tested." They began to walk across the ruins, the night cold and silent around them. Daniel's arms ached, his eyes stung with exhaustion, but he held the cub close, guarding the fragile spark inside it. Each step was heavy, but his resolve burned brighter than the stars above. He had made his choice. He had given his refusal. And nothing, not war, not doubt, not even death, would take that choice from him. The march through the ruins was slow and heavy. Each step echoed in Daniel's boots, crunching across stone and twisted steel. The cub lay against his chest, wrapped in cloth, its breath so faint that at times he feared it had already slipped away. He checked again and again, pressing his fingers against its small neck, searching for that weak pulse. Each time he found it, his shoulders loosened, only for dread to return moments later. Beside him, the alien commander walked in silence. His massive frame moved with ease even in broken terrain, yet his mind was restless. He could not take his eyes off the human who carried a dying cub as if it were treasure. Finally, they reached a broken shelter, half walls leaning against one another like bones of a giant beast. Daniel stopped inside and set the cub gently on a flat stone. The commander stood at the entrance, scanning the shadows for danger, though his gaze drifted back again and again. Daniel opened his medical pack once more. The night was bitter cold now, their breath visible in the dim light. He rubbed the cub's chest with his palms, trying to warm it. The monitor on his wrist beeped slower, weaker. "No," Daniel muttered under his breath. "Not now. Don't fade on me." He pressed 2 fingers against the cub's chest and began compressions. His movements were steady but urgent, each push desperate to keep the heart alive. He leaned down, pressed the mask over the cub's face. forced air in. The commander frowned. It is already gone. Human, you cannot see what I see. Its spirit has left. Daniel's voice was sharp. Then why is its heart still beating? Why does it still try to breathe? If it hasn't given up, neither will I. The commander did not argue, but his eyes narrowed. He had seen warriors collapse and never rise again. He had seen cubs grow still, their families turning away, accepting fate. Yet this human acted as though fate was only another enemy to fight. Minutes passed. Sweat beaded on Daniel's forehead, dripping down into the dust. His arms ached from compressions. His lungs burned from his own shallow breaths. But he did not stop. Every second mattered. The monitor flatlined. A sharp, long beat filled the air. The cub's chest no longer moved. Daniel froze, his heart sinking. The commander stepped forward. "It is done." "No," Daniel whispered. His eyes hardened, his voice rising. "No, it's not over." He moved faster now. He pressed harder on the cub's chest, forcing rhythm into stillness. He adjusted the oxygen flow, increased it, then tilted the cub's head back, giving 2 breaths, then pressing again. The commander growled, "You fight a corpse, human. You are wasting life for what is none." Daniel roared back, his voice breaking with fury and grief. "Not yet. Not while I can still fight for it." The commander stopped, stunned by the raw fire in the human's voice. Daniel's hands blurred in motion, sweat and tears mixing on his face. He remembered other battlefields, friends whose lives he could not save, comrades who slipped away while his hands were too slow, too weak. He had promised himself never again. Never again would he let someone die, without every ounce of his will spend to stop it. "Come back," he whispered between compressions. "Come back, little one. I'm not done. You're not done." The long beep suddenly broke. A small, weak pulse blinked across the screen. The cub coughed faintly, its tiny chest rising once more. Daniel's breath caught. Relief shook his whole body. "Yes," he gasped, almost laughing, almost crying. "Yes, that's it. Stay with me." The commander stepped closer, eyes wide in disbelief. "Impossible." Daniel adjusted the oxygen mask and wrapped another seal over the wounds. His hands moved with precision now, guided by hope instead of despair. The cub's pulse, though faint, kept steady. Its tiny paw twitched against his glove. The commander whispered, almost to himself, "You pull life back from the abyss." Daniel did not look up. His focus was only on the cub. "No, life pulls itself back. I just help." Hours bled away inside the ruined shelter. Daniel never slept, never let go. He monitored the cub's vitals, changed bandages, used more nanites, kept its body warm against his own armor. His muscles burned with exhaustion, his eyes ached, but he would not stop. At one point, the cub's breathing weakened again, slowing to almost nothing. Daniel jumped into action, repeating compressions, repeating breaths. His voice cracked as he whispered fiercely, "You don't get to quit. Not now. Not ever." The cub gasped and returned again, faint but alive. The commander finally spoke, his voice softer than before. "You fight death as if it were your sworn enemy." Daniel gave a tired smile. "It is, always has been." The commander tilted his head. "In my people, death is accepted. It is part of the cycle. We do not struggle once fate decides." Daniel shook his head. "Then your people have never lost someone they couldn't bear to lose. You've never looked into eyes that beg for more time. I have. That's why I fight." The commander fell silent, struck by the weight of those words. At dawn, light broke across the horizon, painting the ruins gold. Daniel looked down at the cub. Its breaths were deeper now, its pulse stronger. It even moved slightly in its sleep, curling closer against the cloth. Daniel's body sagged with relief. He had held the line through the night. The commander studied the sight, his throat tightening in a way he did not understand. "You may have done the impossible." Daniel gave a weary smile. "Not impossible. Just hard." The commander's eyes lingered on the cub. He felt something stirring deep inside. Something unfamiliar. Something his people had long forgotten. Hope. But peace did not last. In the distance, The sound of engines rumbled. The commander stiffened, his hand moving to his weapon. "Enemies approach," he said grimly. "We must move." Daniel nodded, clutching the cub close. His arms were weak, but his resolve burned stronger than ever. "Then we'll move, but I'm not leaving it behind." The commander's jaw clenched. He should have argued, should have demanded the cub be abandoned for survival, but the words died on his tongue. Instead, he gave a sharp nod. "Very well. I will guard you. Carry it." Daniel rose, his legs trembling but steady. The cub stirred faintly in his arms, a tiny breath against his chest. He looked at the commander, eyes blazing with defiance. Death tried to take it once. It won't get another chance. The commander's gaze held his, and for the first time, he believed the human might actually mean it. Together, they stepped out of the shelter, walking into the rising light. Behind them lay the battlefield of death. Ahead lay enemies, danger, and uncertainty. But within Daniel's arms there was still life. Fragile, trembling, but real. And as long as there was life, Daniel would fight. The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting sharp light across the ruins. Dust floated in the air, glowing in arrays like falling ash. Daniel's legs ached from hours of walking, his arms heavy from carrying the cub. Yet he refused to let go. The alien commander walked beside him, always silent, always watching. When they reached the sheltered canyon, the commander raised a hand. "Here, we rest." Daniel knelt down, laying the cub on a flat rock. Its chest rose and fell unevenly, and faint tremors shook its small body. The night's fight had given him more time, but the wound still ran deep. If nothing more was done, it would not last long. Daniel checked the monitor on his wrist. Numbers flashed. Pulse weak, oxygen low, internal bleeding spreading. His jaw tightened. Bandages and oxygen would not be enough. The commander crouched nearby, studying the cub with grim eyes. "You bought hours, human. Nothing more. Soon it will fade, and your struggle will mean nothing." Daniel didn't answer at once. His hands moved, opening the medical pack, pulling out instruments, preparing a surface to work on. At last he spoke, his voice firm. "Then I'll buy more than hours. I'll buy a lifetime." The commander gave a dark chuckle. "You cannot create miracles." Daniel looked up, his eyes burning. "No, but I can make them." He pulled a small silver case from the pack. Inside were tools the commander had never seen. Slim metal arms, glass vials of shimmering liquid, and thin wires that glowed faintly blue. The human's hands trembled as he set them out, not from fear, but from knowing what he was about to attempt. The commander frowned. "What are these?" Daniel's voice was steady. "Surgical nanites. They're not common, not easy to use. But if I don't, this cub dies before the next sunrise." The commander tilted his head. "You speak of letting machines crawl inside living flesh?" Daniel nodded. "Machines small enough to swim in blood. They repair from the inside. Dangerous. Risky. But it's the only chance." The commander's eyes narrowed. "This is madness." Daniel didn't look up from his work. "So it was pulling its heart back last night. But it worked." The commander fell silent. He could not argue. Daniel sterilized the instruments, his movements precise. He laid the cub carefully on its back, wrapping its tiny body in cloth except for the wounded areas. The cub stirred weakly, giving a faint cry. Daniel's chest ached at the sound. He stroked its head gently. I know it hurts, but hold on for me." He slid a thin tube into a vein and attached a vial of shimmering nanites. The commander leaned forward, eyes sharp. "What happens now?" Daniel answered without pausing. "Now I guide them. They listen to commands, repair tissue, stop bleeding, rebuild what was broken. But the strain on the body, it could kill instead of heal." The commander's jaw tightened. "So even your miracle may be death." Daniel's voice dropped to a whisper. "Everything worth saving comes with risk." He activated the control pad. Tiny lights blinked across the screen as the nanites flowed into the cub's blood. Daniel guided them with slow movements, watching the monitor change as they moved deeper. Inside the cub, unseen by eyes, the nanites began their work. clotting blood, knitting torn vessels, sealing organs that had been pierced. The cub twitched, its body shuddering with stress. Daniel's hands tightened around the controls. His eyes stayed fixed on the screen. Come on, hold together. The monitor spiked, heart rate racing, oxygen dropping. The cub cried weakly, body convulsing. The commander growled, "You kill it." Quiet. Daniel barked, sweat dripping from his face. His hands moved faster, adjusting the nanites, redirecting them, forcing them to slow their work so the fragile body could keep up. Minutes stretched like hours. Every second felt like walking a blade's edge. One wrong command, and the cub's heart would stop forever. Daniel's voice trembled but stayed firm. "You've made it this far. Don't leave me now. Stay." The monitor steadied. Slowly, the numbers climbed, pulse stronger, oxygen rising. The cub's convulsions faded. It lay still, but its breaths grew deeper, steadier. Daniel sagged in relief, wiping his brow. "That's it. That's better. You're stronger than they know." The commander stared, eyes wide. He had seen many things in war. Great weapons, powerful engines, strange sciences, but never had he seen life restored in such a way. "You defy nature itself," he said slowly. Daniel looked at him, weary but fierce. "No, I defend it." Hours passed. Daniel worked without rest, guiding the nanites, checking vitals, changing bandages. The cub's body grew warmer, color returning to its skin. Once, its eyes flickered open, tiny, golden, filled with confusion and pain. It looked up at Daniel for a brief moment before slipping back into sleep. The commander saw it and whispered, almost to himself, "It lives." Daniel smiled faintly. "Told you." But he did not relax. He knew how fragile progress could be. The cub could still slip away if he let his guard down. He stayed bent over, whispering words he could not understand but might feel. "You're not alone. You're safe. You're going to make it." The sky outside darkened again as another night fell. The canyon grew cold, shadows stretching long. The commander lit a small fire with fragments of broken wood. He watched the human, who had not moved from the cub's side all day. At last he spoke. "Human, why do you break yourself for one small life? In war, many die. One cub means nothing." Daniel looked up, his eyes red from fatigue. "It means everything. Because if one life doesn't matter, then none do." The commander studied him for a long moment. Then he gave a slow nod, almost respectful. Strange words, but they carry weight. The silence of the canyon was broken suddenly by distant engines again, closer this time. The commander stiffened, hand gripping his weapon. "They come. We must leave." Daniel looked down at the cub, then at the instruments still working. He bit his lip. Moving now could undo everything, but staying meant capture or death. He whispered, torn, "Not now, not when you're so close." The commander's voice was firm. "Choose, human. Carry the cub and flee, or stay and die with it." Daniel's eyes hardened. He lifted the cub carefully, wrapping it tight. The instruments could not come, only what he could carry. He shut down the nanites, praying they had done enough. He rose to his feet, clutching the fragile body close. His voice was steady, though his heart shook. "Then we run, but I'm not letting go." The commander gave a fierce grin. "Then run we shall." They slipped into the night, firelight fading behind them, engines roaring closer. Daniel's arms ached, but he held the cub as if it were his own heart. The commander led the way, stepped swift and sure through the rocks. Behind them, enemy ships descended into the canyon, lights sweeping across stone and shadow. Soldiers poured out, weapons ready, searching. But ahead, in the dark, a human carried a fragile spark of life, refusing death itself. And that spark, small, trembling, yet alive, was enough to keep him moving. The night was long and full of danger. Enemy ships had landed in the canyon, their searchlights sweeping the ruins, but Daniel and the commander had escaped into the deeper hills. They moved through shadowed paths, sometimes crawling, sometimes running, never slowing for long. Daniel's arms burned as he carried the cub, his muscles screaming for rest. Yet he did not loosen his grip. The cub's breathing was faint but steady against his chest, a rhythm he guarded with every step. At last, the commander led him into a cave hidden between two cliffs. Inside it was dark and cool, the air damp and silent. The commander lit a small glow stick, filling the chamber with pale blue light. Daniel set the cub on a blanket. He spread across the ground. His hands trembled from exhaustion, but his eyes never left the tiny figure. He checked the monitor. Pulse, weak but stable. Oxygen, low, but not failing. For the first time, the numbers did not drop. He leaned back, letting out a long breath. We made it, at least for now. The commander sat near the entrance, keeping guard. His eyes, however, drifted again and again to the cub. His voice was low, almost thoughtful. It still lives. I did not think it possible. Daniel smiled faintly, though his face was pale and worn. That's because you've only seen death win. Humans don't stop until the last chance is gone. The commander gave a small grunt, neither mocking nor agreeing. He looked away, but his eyes lingered on the cub. Hours passed. The silence of the cave was broken only by dripping water and the soft hiss of the oxygen line Daniel had rigged from his gear. Daniel fought to keep his eyes open, but exhaustion dragged at him. Still, he whispered words the cub could not understand. You're safe now. You're strong. Keep fighting. The commander finally spoke again. You talk to it as though it hears. Daniel nodded without hesitation. Maybe it does. Or maybe it just feels it. Sometimes words are more than sound. The commander studied him, unsettled by the strange warmth in his tone. His people did not speak to the dying. They let silence claim them. But this human filled silence with hope. Then, as dawn touched the sky outside, something changed. The cub stirred. Its tiny paw twitched, then lifted weakly into the air. Daniel froze, eyes wide. Slowly, the paw fell onto his hand, pressing it with faint but real strength. Daniel's throat tightened. His voice broke into a whisper. You're still here. You're really still here. The cub's eyes flickered open, golden light shining faintly in the glow of the cave. They blinked, confused but alive. The tiny chest rose and fell in deeper breaths than before. The commander rose to his feet, stepping closer. His eyes widened, disbelief flashing across his face. By the stars, it breathed strong. Daniel leaned close, his voice shaking with joy. That's it, little one. That's the spark. Don't let go. The cub gave a faint sound, not pain, not fear, but something softer like a sigh. Its paw gripped his finger once more before it slipped back into sleep. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. He let out a shaky laugh. You see that? It's fighting. It wants to live. The commander stood in silence, his chest rising and falling heavily. He had told himself this was impossible. He had told himself no cub could survive such wounds. Yet before his eyes, the human's refusal had become truth. Finally, the commander spoke, his voice quiet but heavy. You have done what no one of my people ever has. You have pulled life from the hands of death. Daniel looked up, tired but proud. Not me. It chose to fight. I just gave it the chance. The cave grew quiet again, but it was no longer the silence of despair. It was the silence of wonder. The commander lowered himself to the ground across from Daniel, his eyes never leaving the cub. For the first time, respect shone there. Perhaps your kind is not weak as many believe. Perhaps you are dangerous, not because of your weapons, but because you never yield. Daniel gave a faint smile. You're starting to understand. The commander's gaze softened, almost unwillingly. I do not yet know if that is a gift or a curse. Daniel looked down at the cub, who slept peacefully now. He brushed its fur gently, his voice quiet. Doesn't matter what you call it. All I know is that life is worth the fight. Always. Outside, the first rays of the sun touched the cliffs, flooding the sky with light. Inside the cave, a spark had been lit, not just in the cub's fragile body, but in the hearts of those who witnessed it. The cub was alive, and because of that, nothing would ever be the same. Day by day inside the hidden cave, its breathing grew deeper, its body stronger. Daniel never left its side. Every few hours, he checked the monitors, changed the bandages, and whispered soft words no one else could understand. His hands were tired, his eyes red from lack of sleep, but he refused to stop. The alien commander watched in silence, at first from a distance. He did not trust hope. His people had been taught since birth that no cub could return once death's shadow touched it. But now, before his eyes, the impossible was unfolding. On the third morning, the cub opened its eyes fully. Golden light shone from them, clear and sharp. Its tiny chest rose with steady rhythm. It turned its head weakly and let out a soft cry. Daniel froze, his breath catching. He leaned close, smiling. "Hey there, little fighter. You made it through the night." The cub's paw reached out, brushing his finger. It was no accident. It was choice. The commander's throat tightened. His deep voice broke the silence. "It knows you. It remembers." Daniel looked back at him, his expression soft. Because it knows someone refused to give up. Later that day, the commander stepped outside the cave to meet his soldiers. They had followed him in secret, worried that their leader was wasting time on human madness. Now, when he told them the cub lived, disbelief filled their faces. One soldier shook his head. "That is not possible. No cub survives such wounds." The commander's tone was firm. "Yet it does. I have seen it with my own eyes." Another soldier spoke in anger. "It is trickery. Humans are liars. They pretend life where none exists." The commander's gaze hardened. "Would you call your commander a liar?" The soldiers fell silent. They had never heard such weight in his words. Back inside, Daniel continued his work. He fed the cub with care, giving it drops of liquid through a small tube. He adjusted the blankets so it would not grow cold. When the cub coughed and whimpered, he soothed it gently until it calmed. The commander finally moved closer, watching every detail. He spoke in a low voice. "Why do you work so hard for one life? Even among my people, we would not spend so much for a single cub." Daniel paused, looking down at the small creature that rested against his chest. His voice was quiet but strong. "Because one life matters. Maybe it won't change the war. Maybe it won't change the galaxy. But for this cub, it means everything." The commander studied him, eyes dark with thought. He had fought in 100 battles, had seen thousands fall. Never once had he stopped for a single life. Yet here was a human who did, and it was changing everything. By the 6th night, the cub no longer needed machines to breathe. Its lungs fought on their own. Its heartbeat, once faint and broken, now pulsed steady and strong. When it awoke, it no longer cried from weakness. Instead, it looked around the cave with quiet curiosity. The soldiers came one by one to see it. At first they stood far back, unwilling to believe. But when the cub blinked at them, alive and awake, their disbelief turned to awe. One whispered, "He has stolen life from death." Another said, "No, he has returned life. That is different." The commander listened in silence. He could see it in their eyes, fear mixed with respect. They had always believed humans were reckless, too emotional, too fragile for war. Now they saw something else. Humans were dangerous because they would not surrender, not even to death. The next morning, as the sun poured gold into the canyon, the cub surprised them all. It tried to stand. Its legs wobbled, its body shook, but still it pushed upward. Daniel quickly steadied it with both hands, smiling wide. "That's it. Easy now. You're stronger than you think." The cub gave a soft growl, not of pain but determination. It leaned against Daniel's arm, trembling but refusing to fall. The commander stepped closer, unable to hide the wonder in his voice. "It fights already. Like you." Daniel glanced up at him, eyes shining, because it knows it's not alone. That night, the commander called his soldiers together. The cub slept in the cave, guarded by Daniel. The commander's voice was low, but firm as he spoke to his warriors. "Remember this day. You saw it with your own eyes. A cub was doomed, yet a human refused to surrender, and because of that, death was turned aside." The soldiers listened in silence. Not one dared to argue. The commander's gaze swept over them, sharp as steel. From now on, never call humans weak. They are the ones who fight when all others give up. They are the ones who make the impossible real. Back in the cave, Daniel looked down at the cub curled against him, its tiny breast warm on his arm. He whispered softly, almost to himself, "You're safe now. You made it, and you'll never be alone again." The cub shifted in its sleep, pressing closer to him. Daniel smiled through tired eyes. He knew this was more than survival. This was change. This was proof. The spark had grown into flame. And from this moment, nothing would ever be the same, neither for the cub, nor for the aliens, nor for the humans who stood beside them. What began as a fragile spark had grown into a steady flame. Each day, the little one grew stronger. Its golden eyes stayed open longer. Its breathing was steady, and its cries turned into soft growls full of life. The wound that once meant certain death now healed with quiet determination. For Daniel, it was proof that hope mattered. For the aliens, it was something more. It was a challenge to everything they had believed. The commander stood at the mouth of the cave one morning, watching the sunrise bleed across the canyon walls. Behind him, Daniel fed the cub with careful hands, speaking softly to it as though it were his own child. The commander turned slowly and studied the human. There was no pride in Daniel's face, only relief and quiet joy. His voice, when he spoke to the cub, was gentle in a way the commander had never known from any soldier. "You're getting stronger," Daniel whispered, smiling as the cub licked a drop of water from his hand. "One day you'll run again." The commander cleared his throat, his deep voice echoing in the cave. "Human, you have done what none of us dare to believe. You gave back a life already lost." Daniel looked up, tired but proud. "I didn't give it back. The cub fought for it. I just refused to stop trying." The commander's eyes narrowed, though not with anger. "Then perhaps that is what makes your kind dangerous, not strength of body, but strength of will." Word of the miracle spread quietly among the alien soldiers. They carried the tale with them, whispers turning into certainty. No longer did they speak of humans as weak or foolish. Now they spoke with wary respect. One soldier said, "Humans fight for one life as if it were an army." Another answered, "Then imagine what they do when a whole army stand behind them." The story of the cub became a seed of change, growing in the minds of all who heard it. Weeks later, the cub could walk again. Its steps were shaky, but each one was stronger than the last. Daniel guided it gently, letting it lean against his leg. When it stumbled, he caught it. When it fell, he encouraged it to rise. The aliens watched in silence. For them, this was no ordinary sight. It was not just a cub learning to walk. It was proof of the impossible. The commander finally spoke to his warriors. "Look well. This is the gift of a human's will. They do not see what is doomed. They see what can still rise." But not all were pleased. When the higher council of the alien species learned of the cub's survival, they called it an unnatural act. To them, life saved in such a way was against tradition. They demanded the cub be taken away for study, even destroyed, for fear that humans had broken the natural order. The commander refused. He stood before the council and said, "If you wish to harm this cub, you will do so only by stepping over me." I saw death turn aside. "I will not let you erase what was won." The council fell silent. No one had ever heard their commander speak with such fire. Back in the cave, Daniel sat with the cub curled against him, its golden eyes bright with life. He whispered, "You changed them, little one. Not just me, not just your people. Everyone who sees you will know life is worth the fight." The cub gave a soft growl, pressing closer. The commander entered then, lowering himself to sit across from Daniel. His eyes were softer now, filled not with doubt, but with respect. "I was wrong about your kind," he admitted. "I thought humans fragile. I thought your ways reckless. But I see now, you are dangerous in ways we never understood. You are dangerous because you never surrender, even when death stands over you." Daniel gave a small smile. "We don't fight death because we expect to win. We fight because it's the only way life has a chance." The commander bowed his head slightly. "And because of that, this cub will live. And because of that, we will never look at humans the same way again." The sun dipped low, painting the canyon in fire and gold. The cub stumbled forward and pressed its tiny head against Daniel's hand. He stroked its fur gently, his voice a soft promise. You're safe now. You'll grow, you'll run, and you'll never be alone again. The commander rose to his feet, looking out toward the horizon. His voice carried like a vow. From this day, we remember, the humans are not weak. They are the ones who fight when all others surrender. They are the ones who give back life where none remains. And for that, they will never be forgotten. The cub lived. And because one human refused to give up, an entire people learned the power of hope. That was the legacy.